so, okay, so first, just a couple of general concepts with half guard, okay? The main, and it's for what your opponent here is trying to do, okay? Your opponent in the half guard has a couple of key goals. One is, especially if he's playing knee shield half guard, he wants this up high to keep me from being able to smash him. So that's one of your general priorities against someone playing half guard, okay? Another one is if this is low, he's most likely coming for the underhook. Exactly, and then starting to come up into dogfight or a sweep. Yeah, exactly. He's starting to, okay, so in terms of submission attacks from the half guard, he actually doesn't have that many without transitioning to something else. So if he wants to go into legs, he probably needs to get a butterfly half and kick me up. If he wants to get an arm bar, he's going to have to pull this leg out. If he wants a triangle, he has to pull this leg out as well. If he wants to do a guillotine choke, he'd have normally had to get the guillotine before he got the half guard. So it's normally, you don't normally enter a guillotine in half guard. That's kind of difficult to get the right angle with the head. So normally you'd start in the guillotine and then close half guard to finish. So his only real submission option, and I'm saying this because this is what we look for, is Kimura on this arm. That's kind of the only real option he has. So that he can come here. Yeah. Exactly. So this is the only real submission option he's going to happen here. So, which is good, because in terms of submissions, we only have to basically protect this one arm. And in terms of sweeps, we have a couple of other things to defend against. I'm going to start on that today. But first of all, like I said, keep in mind, this arm you need to defend, okay, in some way, shape, or form. If it means you keep it close to your body, or if you see that this arm is in some way out, you pin this arm so that he's not able to use it to get the Kimura, okay? So, but you need to protect this arm first of all. So personally speaking, I like to keep my arm about here. Welded onto my hip like this. Even if he gets my wrist, yeah, he's not getting the Kimura, okay? And what's cool is I can actually use that if he's got a knee shield and he goes for the Kimura, I can actually use that to beat his knee shield and to start my pass, okay? So if you're keeping it here, this is what I was talking about with close guard, is you can actually use his submission attempts to help build your pass, okay? So in terms of the underhook, I like to keep my arm here, okay? Because, yeah, this is a big motion, and then I can come, he's not, if I have my arm here, he can get the underhook really easy. Okay? Especially if my body's leaned forward like this. Yeah, so posture, when we're fighting someone in half guard, I like to stay here first when I'm building up my pass, okay? Even if he's got the knee shield high, I want to keep my arm like this because now it's closed. If he tries to get the underhook, it's a very big action, and you can see I'm going to be able to pummel my hand in, okay? And the last thing is, one of the major sweeps from here is if he were to come low, yeah, exactly, and go for my foot. No, grab my foot, yeah. Yeah, and then he starts, yeah, doing these kinds of sweeps. So, again, and that's one of the other sweeps. So, and again, this is a big motion. So I see him going for, now I can pin his hand, okay? And one more sweep that very often happens, which we're also taking care of with this particular motion, is called the John Wayne sweep. So if I get my arm here, and you just like do sort of a crossover, sorry, just plant my arm. Yeah, and no. Knees together, and move your knees that way. Yeah, that's sort of a pass. Okay? So, I'll do the John Wayne sweep right here. So it's basically we're here, I get the arm, bring it over here, and it's like this. Okay? That's another sweep that happens a lot that you need to watch out for. And again, with our basic sort of half guard posture position here, again, I'm protected from that sweep too, because again, he's got to get my arm, and that's, again, this is a very big action. He has to do a lot more to come to me than I do to him, and I'm always going to be able to strip that grip. Okay? So, I just want to practice this position first, okay? I don't like to personally have my feet here because I'm half calf slicing myself right now, actually. Yeah, exactly. This is not a comfortable position on this leg. And in half guard, I like to have a bit of energy in my feet. I like to be able to move a bit. So I like to be on my toes in half guard. Well, when fighting half guard, I mean. Okay? So in closed guard, I would be on the shoelaces. In half guard, I like to be like this. Okay? And so this is our sort of fundamental position when we're in half guard and we're attacking the half guard. And normally, he's going to take a knee shield because this, if he comes here, he's already giving me half the chest on chest. Okay? So that's I'm not saying it's bad for him, but it's just why make my life easier? So kind of, it's not that I have my arm in on my hips, I have my arm on his leg. And that's going to become important later when we start beating knee shields. Okay? So, but this is sort of our basic position first. Alright? So let's just kind of focus a bit for just taking that position, and then we'll go into start beating the actual half guard. First sort of sparring exercise I wanted to go through, half guard. Okay? So I wanted to use it, basically I want to do posture sparring. Okay? So what our job is to be able to maintain this, our neutral position in the half guard. Okay? He gets to try everything he wants, kind of lower intensity, playful, because you don't get to actually pass. I want you staying here. My job is he tries any kind of sweep he wants, and I just have to go to neutral. I am trying to keep my neutral position. Okay, so that we're just going to do a minute, okay? So, and the whole idea is just be safe in his half guard, because the main thing when you're passing these, what I like to call static guards, so guards that don't require mobility, like the closed guard and the half guard, the whole point is you want to take your time, because he wants you to be rash and to give up opening. So our first job is to keep everything closed and to keep our posture. So that's the first thing I want to do. Just a little bit of light sparring to kind of drill keeping in posture and being able to return to neutral when something gets broken. Okay? Okay, so that's kind of our posture. Like I said, the very first rule of attacking any guard is don't get swept, don't get submitted. And if you're good at blocking submissions and sweeps, you're going to notice very often your opponent is going to give you something, because for a lot of attacks, especially in closed guard, he's going to have to open his guard to give you to go into that attack. And if you're good at defending, then you can capitalize on that. So, but now we're going to assume that our opponent is really good at keeping his guard, and he's patient. Okay, he's not trying to sweep at all costs. Maybe he's a bit stally and lazy. Okay. So that's when we can't just wait for him to do something. We're going to have to start actively passing his guard then, okay? So, and this is something I kind of mentioned too in the passing from the closed guard is, I don't like to move from pass to pass nowadays. I prefer to move from pin to pin. Because you're going to see that, especially at tournaments very often, you're going to have people whose idea of guard retention is framing and tripping until they go out of bounds, and then restarting in the middle. And if you don't have a good control over your opponent, you can burn out a lot of energy with that, because I do something, he shrimps out of bounds, and I have to start in the stand-up, and then he shrimps out again. And my last fight, Europeans, I think the guy we shrimped out of bounds. I think he shrimped out of bounds like 5 times in that match. So, I mean, it doesn't count as a penalty because technically he's not running from the mat, he's just shrimping to keep guard. But it's annoying. And if you aren't good at keeping your opponent in one place, then you're going to have a lot of problems passing guard. So that's the first thing is I like to try and work on right now, is to pin my opponent where he is so that he's not able to shrimp out of bounds and he has to in some way fight against my pass. So first one we're going to go through is called a Cradle pass, okay? So from here, I'm going to take this arm, weave it into the legs like this, and I'm going to turn my thumb towards my opponent, and I'm going to use my shoulder to smash his knees. okay, in this kind of a position. Then with my other arm, I always refer to as the swim. So I'm going to swim forward, catch his head, and connect my hands, and now I've got him in cradle. And here's my pin. Okay, I've got him pinned now. He can't shrink away from me. So he can do other things, but he's not going to be able to shrink away from me now. So, and we're going to use this now. I bring my head to his chest, and I sprawl. And all the while I'm exerting pressure with my arms and my head to make this a bit uncomfortable for him. From here, I unlock my hands, and this arm, I'm going to do a sweeping motion downwards to move the legs out of the way. And then I take my time control. Okay, on this side so I can show what I'm doing with the other hand. So the main thing is when you're doing this, it should feel really uncomfortable. Okay, when you're cradling someone, they shouldn't be just going, this is fine. I mean, maybe if they did like 50 years of yoga in India, this is not that bad, but you should be exerting pressure, crunching them down. This is where you should start being able to listen to the grunt test. If your opponent, if you have him in the cradle and you're pressuring him and he's going, you're doing it right. That's what you want. So, okay, so we're here. Now watch what I'm doing with this hand, okay? Bringing it in. First my elbow is out. I turn my thumb to my opponent, bring my elbow in, and smash into the knee, okay? And this is taking care of the knee shield now. You can't really keep me at bay with the knee shield anymore. Then swim behind the head and connect my hands. Now I want to bring my body about 90 degrees to him. Bring my head down and in his chest. I like to have he's grunting already. I like to have my head around his rib cage. And from here, I crunch my elbows together and I sprawl. And that frees my leg. Now I can bring my head back up and move you over here. And with this hand, I'm going down, catching the bottom leg, and using that to keep his legs crossed, sort of, in this position, so that I have his legs unable, try to remain half right. Yeah, I've got his legs controlled here. This keeps him from regaining his guard. And now, I'm still with my chest on chest side control. Okay? That's the cradle pass. Okay, so that's kind of my initial pass. It's not always the one I have success with, but it's the one I use to lead into other pin passes. So this is like the boxer's jab for me when passing half guard. So this is my first one. I'm not trying to defeat him. I mean, the pass is not a feint. I'm actually trying to do the pass. But I'm assuming my opponent is going to do something to counter it, which I'm going to use to lead into something else. So kind of like when you're boxing. You jab, you're not jabbing as a feint. You want to hit him with the jab, but you're using the jab to open up bigger shots. And that's what this one is for me. Okay? So let's practice that a bit, and then we'll go to some of his reactions. We've got our initial pass. Okay? So, easier to see in the camera. Okay, so like I said, this first pass, the cradle pass, when you're passing half guard, this is our boxer's jab. I think it's actually a pretty good pass. The thing is there's a lot of actions people do to counter you getting you the cradle because people aren't stupid and they know they don't want to be in the cradle. So I like it though because it's a great way to break the knee shield and it makes him predictable, okay? He can't go for this leg, he can't really start grabbing. If he goes for the leg, I get my cradle, so he gives me what I want. He can't really choke me, he can't really leg lock me. Inverting is going to be hard because I'm controlling his up. Yeah, exactly. I'm controlling him with this. So the first thing your opponent's most likely going to do is he's going to try and reclaim the knee shield because he wants to be here. Okay, he wants to try going for his underhook and things like that. Yeah, he wants to come into this position. So he wants to return to what he considers the neutral position. And we're going to use that to flow into our next pass. And this is all part of a concept I like to call pin passing, because I'm not moving from pass to pass. I'm moving from pin to pin. Yeah, you were still in the camera, just so you know. Okay, I'm not trying to go past, oh I go here, oh I go here. Okay, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep him in one space. What I don't want is for him to just keep shrimping, go out of bounds, and then I have to start the whole thing over. I want to keep him here. Okay, so the cradle pass we have here, and now we're in our pin. He's not going anywhere. Okay, so if he starts trying to fight the cradle pass by what you actually mentioned when we were working on it, if he frames on my face and tries to, yeah, just go ahead and try to reclaim the knee shield. Yeah. If he does something like this, this is great if we know what to do. Because, okay, I'll come here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hand off the ground, go up here to the knee, and I'm going to use his opening of the knee shield to give me a chest on chest. Okay, I'm using his own action now to beat his own knee shield. Okay, with the cradle pass, we're beating the knee shield by breaking it down. Now when he tries to open it, what I'm doing is I'm using his own momentum, coming up and kicking it out of the way, and just slamming into a chest on chest. I'm being a bit fancy because I'm already going for the underhook. To be quite frank, what I would actually recommend when you're doing this, don't go immediately for the underhook, because if you have someone who's really good at half guard, he's going to get that underhook before you do. Yeah, come down on the hip. And you put your head here on his chest, try to use something with the underhook now. Yeah, okay? Yeah, now I've got him pinned, and this is what I meant earlier. I'm in a pin now. This is the top side half guard pin, he can't really use the underhook. Now I can bring my hand up, pummel in, and now I have double underhooks. So this is a good position for me now. Okay? So let's start with just practicing that one part of this, okay? We'll go into the pass after that, but first I just want to practice this opening the knee shield. And that needs to be a smooth motion. Open the knee shield, come right on the hips. Okay? And close those elbows. I don't want to be like this. If I'm like this, he's drifting. Yeah, exactly. If my arms are open, he gets underhooks, and I'm in a world of trouble. My arms are closed, and I'm here. It's almost like being in a body lock pass. Okay? Try to get an underhook. Okay? So that's what I want. Okay? We open the knee shield, and immediately hip control, arms in. Okay? Clear what I want? Okay, let's work on that. Okay, so we've got our bypassing the knee shields through the cradle pass. We start with our cradle pass. He fights against the knee shield back, and we come into our sort of half neutral position. Okay. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to start walking up his body. First, I get my underhook. Then I get my other underhook, and I come here. And right now, what's really important is I want my head on this side of his body, not on this side, okay? So basically the side where my knee is on the ground, I want my head on that same side. And now what we're going to do, try to lock up the half guard really tight. Yeah, okay? Because this is what he's going to do when he gets here. He's going to lock up the half guard as tight as he possibly can, okay? From here, what I want to do is really bring his arms up in this double under. I bring my head to the ground, and I start bringing his feet up. Now his legs have to support his own weight. I pummel it in with my foot, and I knee slide out. Okay? There will be times where you don't get the double unders. An underhook, overhook is perfectly fine. Important is let's do it in this direction so I can show that. The important point is that the arm, I need this underhook for this one, okay? I can't do this pass if he gets an underhook here. I have to go to something else, okay? If I got the underhook here, even if he gets an underhook here, that's no problem. I can go overhook. And I can do the same thing. And I land in my kiss of a time. Okay? The only difference here is now I land in this Kisekatami before I was landing in this Kisekatami. It's the only difference. Okay? 1 second, make my hair pretty. Gotta look good for the camera. Do you want to see that?
I think it's okay.
I can do it on now. It's really important that you get to see these things too. You know? So. Okay. So we're here. I come up in here. Break the knee shield. He tries to recover the knee shield. He does knee shield. And you see, I actually came too far up right now, and that's where he can get this underhook. But again, I just overhook him, and I'm fine here. Important is that I get the underhook on the other side of the body. That's the critical underhook. And when you're going for the underhook, okay, don't go for the underhook like this. Because he's going to feel the minute that contact leaves him, and then he goes for his underhook, okay? When you're going for the underhook, I've got it tight, I just walk up his body. I never lose that body contact, okay? If you ever have lost contact between your arm and your body, a good guy is going to get the underhook, okay? And so from here, I come up, pull my foot in, hit the knee free, and pass. Okay? So let's work on that a bit.